going on, y'all? Todd Howell, how you doing? Give most of you who decides to join us live video. So we got a few people joining in. Let's see what we have. So to get started here. So what's going on, y'all? And how y'all doing? This video that maybe some other people will want to watch later on, and hopefully this is something to share. I'm gonna give you a little econ, history, marketing, and once again, just a little edutainment, informing people. Once again, all right. Seems like we're back. It was telling me that it lost its connection, but once again, now it seems like it's back, so we'll get started. See Patrick Kelly on there. Can't realize I saw somebody else pop up. So anyway, I'll go ahead and get started since it seems like I'm back into civilization where I have a connection as I pass through from the District of Columbia, the occupied territories of the District of Columbia, and get ready to go into the glorious People's Democratic Republic of Maryland stand again. I crack myself up when I say that. Just and you know what? No offense to the people of Maryland. I know some great people from Maryland. But the reason why I refer to those two places, D.C., once again, the District of Columbia, the occupied territories of the District of Columbia, and the glorious Democratic Republic of Maryland stand, the reason why I've given them those names is because both those states infringe upon your unalienable rights and through the Second Amendment. So anyway, that's the reason why I say that. It's just my little dig against them. But so here's the thing about this. Sonia Wood, how you doing? Here's the thing about Econ 101, demographics, marketing, and scarce resources. You know, what you gotta understand is that there's something that everybody deals with. Every business, every individual deals with scarce resources. And typically those scarce resources are either a lack of time or a lack of material, personnel, what have you, or a lack of money, right? And there's lack just because you never really have enough time, money, or material or personnel to do everything that you want to do. So econ is really just the study of the use. It's a social science much more than a mathematical science, although math comes into play, but it's really just a study of the use of scarce resources. And there's a reason why demographics matter. And as businesses have grown and we've gone into modern times, demographics and marketing has become huge. So let me take you back in the day. Back in my day, Sonny, when I was a wee little lad. See, I'm 44, and those of you who are in my age group, give or take a handful of years or so, can probably all remember when there were 3 TV channels and that other channel that nobody watched, right? There was ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. And here's the thing about that. When there were those 3 channels, if you own manufacturer X, retailer X, whatever business that you owned, if you wanted to reach, you know, if you go back to the height of the TV era, right? When TVs became ubiquitous and there was one in every home, retailers, manufacturers said, I want to boost my sales, so I need to find out where my customers were. Well, the thing is, back then with TV programming, the relationship between network television and manufacturers, retailers, and marketing was really solid. At the end of the day, that a manufacturer or retailer pretty much knew that between, let's say, 6 and 10 p.m. or whatever prime time. It's funny. I haven't watched TV in a long time in terms of like sitting down in the middle of the day or evening and watch TV. I don't even remember what time prime time is. It's like 7 to 10 or whatever. But anyway, from the time people get off work to the time people typically go to bed, 6 to 10, we'll just call it. I don't know what the exact time is, but basically 6 to 10 is prime time. And a manufacturer or retailer knew that if they wanted to market their product X, all they had to do was go on ABC, NBC, or CBS and pay for a 30-second ad or whatever the time was. And they had a pretty good idea that about 75 to 80% of the population in the United States would be watching TV during those times, and their product would be seen by 75 or 80% of the population. Now, when you started having things like daytime soap operas, right? Well, see, and that was family time. And really, when they wanted to appeal to men, you talk about back in the 50s, 60s, early 70s, when they wanted to appeal to men, they would definitely advertise during the evenings, because by and large, most men were working, and so they would be home in the evenings, and that would be family time. So you'd have the family programming, but you had a lot of women who were at home. So of course the advertising during the daytime, which is when you started getting the soap operas and so on and so forth, was more marketed, geared towards women. What's going on, Miss Bradley? So yeah, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, the marketing during the daytime was more towards women, so you'd have advertisements for pantyhose. They did not advertise for pantyhose during prime time. They advertised for pantyhose during the daytime when they suspected that most women, or they knew that most women would be at home. So anyway, they advertised heavily on Saturday mornings during cartoon, because that's when your kids would be sitting there in front of the TV every Saturday morning to watch cartoons. And so that's when they would hit children up real hard with whatever advertisement for sugary cereal or for whatever games or whatever like that. The whole marketing and advertising thing was focused on that. So like, if you were selling cigarettes, which, yeah, they did TV advertising for cigarettes. If you were selling cigarettes, you didn't necessarily advertise on Saturday morning. Right? You advertise in the evenings or whatever like that. And if you were advertising pantyhose, you didn't advertise Saturday morning, because you're only going to get kids watching TV on Saturday morning. So you understand is the importance of demographics in advertising. So we fast forward to early 1980, when the advent, and this went on for a good 20 years, it was gospel. Maybe about 25 years, probably from mid-50s all the way up until about 1980 something. You had about a 25-year run where that was the only way it was done. And then along came cable TV, right? Now, cable TV in its infancy still was not really a big deal, but those who had some foresight saw it as a game changer. And so what you ended up with was what happened when mid-80s, when cable TV started competing and there were more cable TV channels. When, it was no big deal when there's only 1 or 2 channels, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, even 10 channels. But by the time you got to 40, 50 channels, now here's the problem. What they wanted to know was maybe Chris, 40-something-year-old Chris, he's not watching network television anymore from 7, 8. So, because remember, all these marketers and advertisers wanted to know was, where are your eyeballs? And the goal is for repetition. If we get you to see our ads repeatedly, it would influence your buying. Right? This is what the whole thought process is. Just, I need to get that advertisement in front of you. I need to have a catchy jingle, something that's stuck in your head, so that when you go to the grocery store or wherever you normally go to purchase products, and all of a sudden you see this ad, you see this product, and that jingles in your head, and you're like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm going to try that because I like their ad. I like the catchy jingle. I'm going to go out and buy. See, you need to understand this from the whole Econ 101 standpoint, right? But then Then you got cable TV blowing up, 100 channels or whatever like that. And then the question became, man, it's a little bit harder to get the customers because everybody's not, I mean, yeah, you still had the big network TV programs, but still there was differences. Everybody wasn't watching that. So, you got 100 channels. And so now advertisers started looking harder at, and if you remember back in the 90s, this is when people started asking you to fill out these surveys on your background. What's your education, your zip code, your education, your marital status, the number of kids in your household. These are all questions that businesses wanted to know so they could tell, so they could advertise during the right times, advertise in the right places. And of course, I knew that was going to happen because this is Maryland. So anyway, that's what they wanted to know. Where, if I'm going to spend my money paying these, if I'm going to spend my money, sorry for the interruption, folks, paying these advertisers to advertise during certain shows, I need to know that I'm actually getting my money's worth. So that's when you started filling out these surveys and everybody wants to know all those things on your demographics. So at the end of the day, here's what you need to know. Businesses have scarce resources. They don't just have money falling out of their pockets. They have scarce resources. Marketing and advertising is a huge budget, huge aspect of their budget, and they want to know that their intended audience, that the likely buyer is going to see the advertisements. And at the end of the day, they also just really care about likely buyers. Even in politics, one of the things with me having that background in politics and working on numerous campaigns and all those things, you realize that politicians and political parties focus on likely voters. Yeah, you might get spammed or whatever like that or see all these advertisements, but at the end of the day, the people who are known as likely voters, man, they get a lot of attention. Because these companies want to know, hey, if you're most likely to vote, I want to talk to you. And, and it doesn't matter if it's voting, if it's buying, whatever like that, or even in sports. Here's the thing. I posted something earlier, and it was talking about athletics, right? And it was saying that here are the demographics that, let's say, the NFL looks at. That, yeah, about 70% of the players in the NFL are black. Some would say African American, but if you follow me, you know how I feel about the term African American, so I'm just going to say black. Typically, if you hear me say African American, it's not in a complimentary way, to be honest. It's but yeah, we'll just say black. But here's the thing, and this is where people who are all up in their emotions, and quite frankly, who've never studied this, who don't understand business, who don't understand Econ 101, this is what they're missing out on. That it's likely buyers, it's consumers. That's who businesses are concerned about. And I saw something about the petition, right, that was going on for, the signing people who got their draws in a bunch over that certain quarterback who will go unnamed. But here's the thing. Yeah, 70% of NFL players are black. But 83% of the people who are viewers and people who go to the games are not black. Basically, the people who buy, the people who pay, aren't the ones who are complaining. And I talked about this before, about like the Montgomery bus boycotts of 1955, 1956. And people really don't understand why those bus boycotts were effective. It was because it was the actual consumers who were boycotting. I mean, the people who, that's who businesses care about. At the end of the day, they had pissed off 70% of their actual riders. That you had people who were riders paying the bills, and you were treating them like second-class citizens. Well, that's just bad business, which is another reason why flat out racism like that is stupid. That's real racism. That you were telling your actual buyers, your paying customers, you were telling them that you have to go sit in the back of the bus. You're paying the same amount, but you're going to get lesser service in a free market for your money. And somebody smart figured out, hey, you know what? We don't have to take this. We can take our money elsewhere. Or, as they ended up doing, they organized themselves and had an alternative. They started sharing rides. And the reason why it was successful, and that took about a year, but the reason why it was successful is because they boycotted that business. Those who were actual consumers boycotted the business. So you got people out there signing petitions, and they're like, well, we're upset about this. Well, here's what the business is asking. Were you buying my product anyway? And by buying the product, I mean, like, for example, were you a season ticket holder? Did you have a season ticket holder or regular game attender? And or did you have like the NFL season pass TV subscription? I mean, what you need to understand, it's like, it's funny. I know women don't wear a lot of pantyhose nowadays, but it'd be like me being upset with, Hanes or whatever, who made pantyhose, and say, I'm boycotting Hanes pantyhose. They're going to look and say, well, Chris, just out of curiosity, were you wearing a lot of pantyhose? Well, no, but I just feel a certain kind of way about your business practices, so I'm just not going to support you. But wait a minute, were you wearing Hanes pantyhose? No, but it's the principle of the matter. Yeah, but were you wearing them ever? Did you buy them on a regular basis for, if you didn't wear them personally, did you buy them for your wife or anything like that? No? Okay, so you weren't a regular consumer of our product, but you want us to be concerned about your feelings when it comes to our product. Okay. See, that's what folks didn't get. You're not a consumer, they don't care. That's just how it is. If you're not a consumer, they don't care. There's a reason why they spend all this money looking at their target demographics. And they spend all this money advertising because they know who their likely consumers are and they want to get their money. If you hadn't shown that you were likely to purchase before, they don't really care. I mean, yes, they want to expand. Every business wants to expand. But this is Econ 101, folks, that there's scarce resources. They're going to spend their time, they're going to invest their time marketing and trying to please existing customers or people who were likely customers. It's really that simple. Were you a quote likely customer? No, okay. I don't care. Why should they? This is just one of those things that you just can't get most people to grasp, is those businesses just don't care about what you think. And even people try to say, well, we're going to go after their marketing or go after their advertisers. Well, once again, their advertisers are going to look and say, hey, you know what? 83% of the people who go to these games, remember, 83% are from a particular demographic. And you know what? A lot of those people from that demographic happen to have a certain income level. And this is one of those ones you're just going to miss, okay? This boycott is going to miss. It's not going to be as effective as you would like to think it will be because you're not a consumer, right? And so when it comes to their scarce resources, they already know who the demographics are. And of that supposed 138,000 people who are signing a petition chances are that very few of them owned season tickets and went to the stadiums on a regular basis. Chances are very few of them had an NFL season pass on their cable box or whatever like that. So how are you going to hit them in the wallet? You can't. You don't have, this is not the 1955, 1956 Montgomery bus boycott. You don't have that leverage because you're not one of the writers. You're not one of the primary viewers. You're not one of the people who spends money on their product. Yeah, you go over your buddy's house and you watch the free broadcast, but unless they can see that the paying customers who are all part of a particular demographic, unless they can see that the paying customers are turning off, they don't care about your feelings. That's business. It's just the reality. No, you don't go out of your way to try to alienate the general population. But if you're not a regular paying customer, honestly, stop and think about this for a second. Why should a business care if their paying customers are happy? And those paying customers are spending even more money. Why do you care about a relative few who got their panties in a bunch? That's not how businesses operate. They don't think along those lines. They don't sit there and think about people who weren't regular customers anyway. That's just not how it works. And I just think it's sad because people get themselves caught up and, as I call it, stuck on stupid, and they get it confused. They don't understand Econ 101. They don't understand business. And they're just going to be a puff of smoke. It's just going to blow away because you're not affecting the bottom line of that business. You're just not. They already know who their demographics are. They already know who their target market, their customers are. And you're not it. So why lose sleep over you? It's just one of those things that people feel. And, your feelings are all fine and dandy. But you don't think. If you did, you would understand what I'm talking about. And you would say, well, this is kind of ridiculous for me to do this because I'm just feeling, I'm not thinking. Trust me, those businesses are thinking. They've already checked it out. They've already weighed the potential fallout. And they're okay with it. They've already counted the cost. You got to think, just going to the NFL, for example. You understand, I think, something like in terms of the majority owners, the people who own a majority stake in these teams, I think almost every single one of them is a billionaire with at least $1 billion net worth. They're not stupid people. They didn't accumulate $1 billion. They haven't maintained $1 billion. They haven't grown $1 billion by being stupid. They understand Econ 101. They understand marketing more than you do, especially if all you have is a consumer mindset. That's why they go through a lot of trouble to be able to market towards you, to find the likely demographic. And they know where their bread is buttered. And it's not the people who are signing these petitions. It's like, the people who are signing the petitions would be, once again, like me saying that I'm upset at pantyhose manufacturers. They know I'm not buying them. They don't care. They already know I'm not in the likely demographic. They don't worry about me. And that's just, it's really a shame because a lot of people are going to stay stuck on stupid. They're never going to progress from an economic business standpoint because they miss those simple facts. They focused on social and political things without understanding the economic things. And that's why they're not respected. those who really understand the economic things, who don't say silly stuff like, well, let's just boycott. Boycott when you're a regular customer. That's what it matters. I mean, think about that for a second. If you have not been a regular paying customer and you walk in and say, hey, I'm upset at your policies and I'm not going to buy from you, they're going to sit there and look and say, well, were you like a rewards member? How often did you fly with us? Or how often did you buy with us? You never did? Oh, okay, well, you can leave now. Yeah, that's okay. As a matter of fact, if you don't leave, we'll have you escorted off the property. You have to know, you have to negotiate from a position of strength, and that's just tragic. Anyway, I'm not going to belabor this point, but you have to understand the economics, demographics, marketing, and scarce resources. You know, we all make decisions based off of scarce resources, and they just don't have the time to worry about your feelings because you're not a regular paying customer anyway. They'd rather have you be upset and lose out on maybe the $100 that you might have spent on NFL gear, right? You bought a freaking jersey 5 years ago. But yet they have regular customers, season pass holders, who spend thousands of dollars a year. And you think they're going to risk alienating them over your little funky $100 you spent once 5 years ago on one jersey, right? It's just sad. You got to learn how to think, folks. So anyway, I got to run. I've gone over on the time that I meant to talk about this, but just wanted to give you something to think about, man. Just an Econ 101 kind of thing. If you had to develop a business owner mindset, and even if it's not a business owner mindset, it's just understanding the realities of how economics come into play, and just how other people think, how people actually really think about these things. So, gotta run. You guys take care. God bless.